season where the whole world was terrified, the whole world was anxious, the whole world was uncertain. And in that time of uncertainty and doubt and fear, having moments where you can meditate or when you can read and you discover knowledge about your body's structure, physiological, but also energetic. It was, I think, a tool that I'd want to encourage everyone to get into and to know that we have the power to heal ourselves from so many things. And it's in how we think and how we eat, the words we use. And that really helps you stay tapped in and centered and renewed as a human being. Yeah.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching us from. Thank you so much for tuning in once again for a wonderful conversation with Global Sisters, as I call it. This morning, I have the pleasure of having Shari with me all the way from Ghana, and I'm excited for you to hear more about her story and her journey, because I was so inspired when I heard I read her profile in the Wellness Women group that we're both part of. I was so amazed, and I knew I need to have her on this show. So thank you so much for joining us. Good morning, Shari. How are you?
Good morning, Rose. Thank you so much for having me. I'm well. Hope you're well too.
Thank you for being here. I read your profile, your introduction in the Well Women Ghana, and I was like, wow, she's doing such an amazing work, and she seemed like such a wonderful lady. And now we joined this call, and I hear your voice. I'm like, and your voice even matches what you do. If that's even a thing, I'm like, you sound so poised and calming. So it's like, wow, it makes sense that that's the route she's taking with her life. And I'm making people excited and worried about wondering what is it exactly that she does. So could you do us the honor of giving a short introduction about who you are? Who is Shari? So where you're from, what is your background?
Yes. All right. Thank you, Rose. And I want to say you're doing also an amazing job with all you do in supporting women in their journey to wellness and purpose and in their personal and business life. So I want to salute you for that. So about me, I'm Shari Hammond. I'm currently in Accra, Ghana, but I was born in France of a Ghanaian father and a Ugandan mother. So I do have East and West in me, and French as also a third identity. And I've been back in Ghana now 8 years, close to 9. Working in international development, where I focus on one of my passion, which is women, and how we can really, I wouldn't want to say the word empower, but amplify women's voices, women's choices, and their freedoms. So that's a bit of me in a nutshell.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's what I resonated with so much when I read your bio, the work that you do with women. My passion is to work with women and to really give them a platform, to really cheer them on so that they can live their best lives. So, yeah, I was really, really amazed when I read that, and also intrigued a little bit about your background, Ghanaian-Ugandan. You don't see that often, or I haven't met any Ghanaian-Ugandan, and it's really nice to see East meet West, and also your French background. So you're a diverse person, a global citizen, I may say. Could you take
So, yes, I could take you more. I mean, I do know now more and more East-West connections. I know Gambia and Kenya, Senegal, Uganda, Nigeria. Well, that's more West. But there's definitely the differences and the similarities. And I would say I have my softness comes from my Ugandan side. And my excited part of me, I think, is more Ghanaian. So, yeah. And I chose Accra, I wouldn't say intentionally. It was of where the first work opportunity would present itself. And so that's where I've been able to evolve even professionally. And so this is, because my mom still asks me up to this day, why did you choose Ghana over Uganda? Because I had stronger family ties to Uganda. But I think it's more of the professional opportunities that I had that had me stay here. Yeah.
I understand. I like to ask all my guests here to tell us about who they are who they were when they were growing up, because a big part of our identity as adults has a lot to do with how we grew up and the little girl that we were. And
Yes.
when I work with women, I always like them to tap into the little girl that they were. What were their dreams and their aspirations, and who did they want to become before they became who they are today? And so if you wouldn't mind taking us back to the little girl Shari, where she grew up, what kind of environment was she in, the things she enjoyed? Yeah.
Oh my goodness, Rose, this is such a beautiful question. Because I was in between places. So my parents used to travel, take us on holidays, the US, Uganda, Paris, and other countries. So I used to enjoy being in flights, meeting new people. I used to love reading at 5, 6 years old, having my little nook book section, and I still love reading, love making stories. With Barbies, or even just having imaginary friends. I just vividly remember having my imaginary friends and really laughing out loud with them, because I knew like they were the funniest people. And so I think that one, it just, and now that I have a 5-year-old son, I do see that they're tapped in. They see things that we don't see. And I think they're very, very connected to the different dimensions we live in. And I was a big dreamer. I used to love just imagining. I think as a child, we loved the play and the imagination and the reading. Reading, especially for me, helped me delve into more worlds. And I think as a teenager, when you feel like your current world is just awful and all of that, because we all had that phase, mm-hmm. I think the books would tell you that, wow, okay, there's, I'm thinking about like the Iran Empire, the Persian Empire. I used to read letters, books, literature about that, and about, what's going on in Italy or Russia. And it took me maybe in my late 18, 19 years old that I got familiarized with more Pan-African literature and art. Mm-hmm. And that then changed also in terms of it really molded my personality. Mm-hmm. To be also more Afrocentric and more curious about the creativity we have also on the continent. But yes, the long and short of it is that, yes, I'm very, very creative. I love to singing, dancing also. Yeah. Music so much, always music in the house. There's this group, Cameo. She got that candy, like on Sundays, my dad listening to that and me just doing formation dances with him, it really brought me back on this
lovely
moments. And yes, there was that pop music, of the 90s, but also a lot of Fela, mm-hmm. a lot of jazz. So I was in a, musical house a lot. That also then... kept me still loving music and really seeing the power that music has in elevating our vibration and inspiring each other. So, yeah.
Lovely. Were you an only child, or do you have any brothers and sisters?
So I have sisters. We're all girls. Same mom, same dad. We're two. We're 5 years apart. And then we're about 4 of us otherwise, mm-hmm. And... So because my parents did divorce when I was fairly young, I do have half sisters, but despite that episode of our lives, which was quite traumatic, with my half sisters, we still insist on the bonds we build, to build those bonds no matter who is our mother. Mm-hmm. And I think that's also something that I myself in my own personal journey, learning that, separations or family dynamics that change don't remove the love. And so that's, things that I'm now learning in my mid-30s, and implementing. Yeah.
Beautiful. I hear, that you enjoyed you traveling with your parents a lot, being in the in the plane. You said being around people from different cultures,
Yeah.
and reading books from different, countries, about their culture and stuff like that. And I can see I had a similar interest, very curious as a child, loving to read and definitely understand how, as a teenager, you would want to sometimes escape from your own reality, if we may call it, by diving into books and discovering other universes. So, yeah. I heard also something you said about, enjoying your imaginary friends, finding them very funny, and looking at your son now, seeing that how he's very tapped in. The word that you use, tapped in into different dimensions, tells me that you are a very spiritual person. Is that so?
Yes. I grew up in a Christian home and, going to church and practicing. But I feel the last 2 years with what happened, it more or less led me to really pay attention to also mind-body connection and what's going on around us. And so it's been, about 3 years nearly now of me paying much, much more attention to the world around me and the world within. And I guess, we've all kind of taken up new hobbies during the pandemic, and one of them for me was gardening. And gardening for me was to see also sowing and seeing life come out of it, and really, really seeing the power of intention. And it's a topic I'm very fascinated about and very, very interested about. And I initially had a lot of stereotypes about people who believed in chakras and energy healing, and having witnessed myself and experienced energy healing in during COVID, I tell myself, no, this is actually really real. And we do have a lot of inner power to heal ourselves. And that for me was so impressive to discover in a season where the whole world was terrified. The whole world was anxious. The whole world was uncertain. And in that time of uncertainty and doubt and fear, having moments where you can meditate or when you can read and you discover knowledge about your body's structure, physiological, but also energetic. It was, I think, a tool that I'd want to encourage everyone to get into, and to know that we have the power to heal ourselves from so many things. And it's in how we think and how we eat, the words we use. And that really helps you stay tapped in and centered and renewed as a human being.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned how COVID, it kind of forced everyone to look within and to silence themselves and question their way of thinking and their way of doing things. And I remember my own, I call it my spiritual awakening.
Yes.
Happened many years ago, but I think the catalyst was more motherhood for me. Because I realized that I was going to pass on a lot of information, and I had to be intentional about what I wanted to pass on as truth for me.
Yes.
And so I had to question, what is truth? What does that mean? How do I relate to certain things? What do I feel about that? And so I did that whole, self-discovery, and I think it's a never-ending process. And it was really beautiful, and it's still very beautiful to learn more about spirituality, and the fact that you said that we have the power within to heal ourselves, but also we're all interconnected in a way. We all
very much. Yes.
It's not just me, whatever I think.
And I do believe now. Yeah. And the telepathy, extending love to others, and paying attention. There are always signs. There's always, you might think deeply about someone you've not called in a long time, and then they call you, or you see them. And when nowadays I have someone in mind, I will make an effort to call or message or say, I've thought about you, because unfortunately also the pandemic showed that loss was also everywhere, and to really cherish and be present and be there for people. And And I think we'll probably go in that later, but also change our perception towards work, because our lives are not just about work. So yeah.
I love that you said, whenever, because it is, and I think a lot of the things we're discovering now as adults or in the West, we realize that our ancestors, African ancestors, at least for us, they were already doing these things. My mom always used to say, they say when you think of someone and you don't hear from them or you don't see them, then something bad has probably happened. And she was saying that, and it wasn't linked to Christianity. She was saying that wisdom that she had nothing to do with religion, or some of the habits that she had nothing to do with religion. But somehow we're kind of relearning them now. And when we heard about it in the past, it was like, ooh, this is something, weird. It shouldn't be combined with spirituality, when energy and all of that is all together. It's like one thing. And so, of course, when you think of someone, you should call them. And if they come to your mind, it's probably because there is something that you should act upon, whether it's sending a message, giving them a call, or, maybe they're thinking of you. And so, that's that vibe that is sending towards you. So I think being more aware of these things without making them seem like it's something weird is really important.
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit about, how, your background, your educational background, your professional background, because you said early on in the conversation, Ghana was not an intentional choice, but was more because of your profession. So take us to, growing up, the choices you made, what kind of direction you took with your life at that point.
Yes. All right. So another part of my youth was in the dreamer side. I also cared a lot about people. So I used to tell my parents, I want to help people. And I was curious about medicine, but I told my mom, I cannot be a doctor because I don't like blood and I don't like germs, but I want people to feel better. So the other aspect of it was then for me was international development, because it's finding solutions for different groups of people going through things. And so I told myself, okay, the UN could be something good, given that also my mother had worked in the UN and had most of her career at UNESCO. So it was more the cultural side. And that also maybe influenced a lot of my love for the creative arts and heritage and culture.
Yeah.
And so I studied law. I went to study common and civil law, so French and UK law degree in Nanterre in France. And then I did a master's in international law, because I told myself, that's one of the avenues if I want to work within the UN, is understanding how the world is made, and law is really what our societies are built on. And so that was a very good foundation. It was hard years, a lot of reading. I love reading, but trust me, the legal text. No, because you read those texts and the first things they teach you is understand the legal jargon. And I would always say, if this is jargon and we are literally doing exercises to simplify the terms, why don't we just use these terms? And I'd say, okay, anyways, I know that's why people are paid a lot of money, because they're making these contracts that have very difficult jargon. So there was a lot of frustration around that, but also I knew that Africa and what's the perception also of the continent was something that I was like, okay, I do not like what I see on the media about what's happening on the continent. And that came with the awakening around our literature, our creative scenes, and our talents, and not just for Africa, but also the Black world. So I then started becoming curious, and I said, okay, maybe get on a UN project on the continent. And so I did a master's in public administration that specialized on African government administration. And for my thesis, I was doing a research on French soft power, so French cultural power in Anglophone Africa. And so because I've always been fascinated about the power and influence countries have through their culture. Why are we impressed by America? Is it more about the companies or the Hollywood? Because Hollywood and the big tech are also pushing a lot of money, and it's the ideals they issue out on the world about what they represent, their values, and through clothing and music and all of that. And so I was doing a research on that for France in Anglophone Africa. And I said, oh, then that could help me go to Ghana and see how do the French, influence Ghana, and also see for myself Ghanaian culture. So I did an internship. I was accepted by the Alliance Française here in 2014. And that's really where I 3 months after that internship, which was fantastic, really, really put me, immersed me in the cultural scene here and understanding, being around painters, photographers, writers, filmmakers. For me, those are the most enriching people to be around, really, really. And then 3-4 months after that, I applied for a role in an embassy here, Australian High Commission. And that's really where I started officially, like being a professional in an office, and not in an internship setting. And I was there for 4 years. Really, really great experience. And then, so understanding public diplomacy and seeing, the economic interests of other countries on the continent, and understanding geopolitical situations. For me, those were really, really important things, and fascinating, and also draining, if I'm honest, because the more you read about history and what's happening in our country, the more you see we are doing the same things. Why are we, so it also calls for that, outrage, but also fatigue of, can we do things differently? Can we stop being drained? Can we improve our situations by ourselves? We have also indigenous ideas. We have, what is the African leadership model we want to show to the world? And it's not what we're seeing right now, at least not for where I am. And so, so that's where I evolved professionally. And 2018, I gave birth in 2017 to my son. And I, as you said, birthing does give you a new perspective on life and on how best I want to put myself also in the workplace. And the need for flexibility for me was the core priority a few months after my son was born. So I left the embassy and I decided to be a consultant. I did not have any clients at first. And I said, I don't really know how this thing is going to work, but I need the time to be with my kid. I don't want to leave my house at 6 a.m. and come back at 4 and barely see my child. And I also want to be on exciting projects. So I left in April 2018, and in June 2018, I got my first client through a friend who came in from Uganda and told me, oh, there's a new project that's about to be opened to support women, Ghanaian women get into exports. And I said, oh, wow, this is interesting. And that's really how I got my foot in the door and working on women's economic empowerment projects. Yeah.
Amazing. I love that. And I love how intentional you've been throughout your career so far. You really ask yourself the questions like, okay, I'm interested in that. What could I do? Because a lot of people are pushed into careers or a study path without much thoughts or with too much direction. And so, yes, we get inspired. You were inspired by your mother. That's normal. But, I love how, and I love how intentional you were with that inspiration. You were like, okay, I want to help. This is what I want to do. Where could I help? There's so many ways you can help, but you looked at different ways that you looked at the future. How can I really impact more lives? Law, as you said, is really the backbone. It's holding everything kind of together, even though we don't necessarily always want it that way, and the laws are not exactly what we want, but that's kind of the reality. And so you went in that. And I loved how, again, when you became a mother for the first time, you made a hard decision that, I am going to choose for quality time with my son, even though I don't know if this is going to work. It might be putting us in financial difficulties, So that is very courageous of you for doing that, because it worked out. And sometimes I
Yes.
think a lot of people are afraid to take the first step because they're thinking of all the worst case scenarios, but they're not thinking about the best case scenario. What's the best case scenario? We'll always focus on the worst case. And in your, April, June, that was very quick, you know?
Yeah. And I like that you've said of, taking the leap. I think my also observation is it's easier to take leaps when you're younger, when you have less, because I came to Ghana when I was 24. And it's true, my friends still this day remind me, they're like, Shari, do you know that you left with just one suitcase from Paris? And you're like, guys, see you in September. I'm just doing an internship. And you never came back. And so they tell me, and really, settling in Ghana, even if my father is Ghanaian, I did not have as much familiarity with the culture, the language, ways of being. And so that too also was a lot of differences. But now that I look in retrospect, I as you're saying, I want to cheer myself up and really start, I'm like, wow, it was not easy, but I still, took that chance. And similarly for the break from work, another detail I want to give is that I had a supportive partner then. It was really important for me to know that, okay, if I am not in a stable income, there's still someone in the house who could also support and who also gives me the encouragement on my journey, who can tell me, I know you can do it. You've built, your networks, and there's a lot that you can give. And so just do it.
Yeah.
I think now I'm on a second stage of that professional growth, because the past 5 years I've worked on other people's projects, not really as a firm. It's been more as an individual consultant. And for the past year or more, I've had friends tell me, Shari, where is the company that I don't want you to be sending invoices that just a few $1,000s when you can, quadruple, make a $10,000-$15,000 invoice for the services you give as a firm and as a company, and really scale up. And so you just talked about taking the leap, and I'm in that position where I'm looking and okay, it's going to be time to take that leap and really what is there to lose? What's the best case scenario? Voila, what is going to be the best case scenario? Write it down and hold that vision really clear. And yes, it will be scary, because you're like, wow, there will be some new numbers that I'll have to be giving. There's going to be staffing, hiring people to also be with you to build the dream, and being maybe more visible outside, which is not my personality. I like being in the background. I like amplifying others. I like promoting other projects. But a sign that I'm getting more and more is, Shari, it might be time to, we need to scale this up a bit more.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely believe that you are ready, that you have all the skill sets to do so. And, when the voice comes from within that, okay, it's time. And the how is not for you to worry about. The how comes, like how you're going to get there. It's a journey. It's a trial and error. But when it's time, it's time. And as you said, it's putting the dream out there. It is writing it down and then sitting down to say, okay, this is what we want to do. Now, what's the next little step I need to take? And so that's my excitement when I'm working with clients. I have two sets of groups that I work with, those that come to me at the dream stage, I call it, who are like, this is not it. Like, I'm currently in a life where I do have maybe a dream job on paper, or I have a job that's stable, that's paying the bills, but this is not it. And I just don't know what is the it. And so they come to me and we figure out together what their secret sauce is, I call it, which is when you find what you enjoy doing, what you're really good at, and what your community, because people say the world, but you can't serve the whole world. So a group of people, your world needs, and that you can create an impact. And so when you find that where it meets together, that's the secret sauce. And that's what My expertise is in helping those women, find. And then I have a second group of women who have their secret sauce already down. They know what they want to do, but they're either doing it and it's more like an expensive hobby and it's really not making the money. It's not paying the bills and it's not scaling. It's not growing. It's time for them to step in their CEO position where they need to hire, they need to delegate, they need to charge higher rates. That's a second group of women that I work with. And I love that because it's challenging for both of us when we're at that stage. For all the clients, when I'm working with them, it's like, okay, I don't want to do this. That number seems too big. We're going to do it. We're going to put that number down. And I love it because the moment where you take that leap together, they always come back and say, oh my God, you know what, Rose? I actually think it was too little because when I said the number, they didn't flinch.
Wow. Yes.
I have a client that she is a moderator and a host, and she was moderating for an event that Youssou N'Dour was singing at. And this was one of her biggest gig at that time. And she was able to triple her rates for that event. And she was so scared, like, oh my God, I don't think, because in the scene that she was working in, the rates that she was charging was higher than average, but people were acting as if she was being a bit, asking a bit too much. So for this one, she was like, I'm scared, but I know I should, because when I look at the names of people coming, they have they can afford it. And if they want me to moderate, then they know my worth. And so we tripled her rates, and she was so scared. And she said they didn't even flinch. And so she's like, and now
amazing.
She's better stages. She's working less time. She's traveling more and doing the things she enjoys, just because, she took that leap of faith to level up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's really what goes in line with it's a joy for me to hear these stories. It's a joy for me to see women ask for more. Economic empowerment for me is such a, because as women, we know when we have more money, it's not for us to buy more Prada or Gucci bags. It's really goes back to our communities, to the things we care about. And it has such a positive impact across our communities. So I think when people tell me about what's the point of, gender equality, all of that, you guys are just making noise. It goes exactly what you're saying. It's we need to be breaking biases that women should be asking for less. We need to break biases that we are too shy to get, and even me, it's a personal struggle. I still feel very uncomfortable if it's about asking about what's my fee for this or, but the moment, we feel stronger and the opportunities you're saying that she got right after that and the leveling up, it's extremely beautiful to see. And even more when she would then share with other people. And I think that's really how our communities grow and improve themselves. It's letting people know, okay, for this, if you're within my community of hosts or, in the events industry, you shouldn't take less than this. There's also power in that information. And
definitely. And especially, this client of mine, what she's working on is she has a community for Black creatives, female mostly based creatives, people who feel like they're born artists, but they were told, oh, you can't make money in art, you should become a lawyer or whatever. And so they've been hiding their creativity, but they know it's time. They want to step out, but they're just lost. They don't know how to, present themselves, the fees to ask, how to actually build a career from that. And so that's kind of her expertise, where she's working to build a stage and a platform for Black creatives around the world so they can, touch more people and do what they love. And so that's my wish for every person, but particularly women, for the same reasons as you, because I know when a woman does that, it touches more people. It's a whole village that is affected by that. I love it so much. So tell us a little bit about some of the projects that you're working on. You talked about a project that you first worked on helping women export. Tell us about that one or any other.
Yes, so that was one of my favorites, I would say, in my career, because it was I was directly working with the ladies, because most of the time as a consultant, you might be doing a lot of paperwork, research, and advisory. But this one was literally for Ghanaian exports women who were entrepreneurs, but who might think, oh, maybe let me just limit myself to Ghana, or I'm not sure I could do more than Ghana or my own space here. And so we were supporting them by training them with packaging or how to brand themselves, and also going with them to trade shows. And for me, that's my favorite part, because it was to see, for example, a lot of women I worked with were in shea butter. Mm-hmm. And I think since that project, I'm always an ambassador for shea, because I say we have, our liquid gold is really shea here, and it's such a fantastic oil that we can be, so versatile. And so we would go to those trade shows, and you would see maybe one who it's her first trade show and she's extremely shy and she doesn't want to approach the buyers, or she feels, oh my goodness, there's a lot of apprehension, but you try to hold their hands, but also tell them you have what it takes. You have a great product. You were shortlisted amongst maybe 50 other women, and there's 5 of you here. Yeah. You have what it takes. And so accompanying these women in their journey to, as you're saying, scale up their businesses, or expand where they could see the markets, for me was really good. And to even see their personal victories. So one lady, for example, had brought in her husband. It was his first time following being with her at a trade show. And at first he was skeptical. The first day he was like, oh, I don't know. She's put all our savings in this project and I don't know if it's going to work. And on day 3, he was like, I've never seen, it's been beautiful seeing my wife and my woman negotiate and really, really be persuasive and nearly sell out her stand. Mm-hmm. And for me, that's the pride. I tell myself, the men in our lives should be seeing how much, see those sides of your women and your sisters or your mothers, your aunts, when we are in our zone, when we are doing what we love, and when we're given that space. It's really beautiful. So for me, that's my highlight in terms of the project. It was called She Trades. After that, I got on a World Bank project, and for me that was huge. And because we're here to talk, as women, there was not a week where I did not have imposter syndrome during that project. It was just, it was an extremely technical role and complex, multi-regional one, to support trade facilitation. So supporting policies to improve the trading environment. So for me, that was quite it's a drier, and that's not directly with the entrepreneurs or seeing, the customers directly, or the entrepreneurs themselves. So it was a steeper learning curve with a lot of questioning of, oh my goodness, I'm the most junior on this team. The language in the emails, it was every day, or if every week at least, I was like, oh my goodness, I think this is when they tell me, Shari, what's up? So, after the first month, second month, third month, I'm like, hey, I'm here. Okay. So, and it was, but I learned so much. And I think for me, it was beautiful for me to be around experts, more senior people who, they know their thing, and yes, try to get on that level a bit more, like being refined also through their expertise. And so I stayed on that project for 2 years after I took a 3-4 month break, and I'm on another World Bank project that's wrapping up now. But that too was another space of deep discomfort, and yes, growth. And again, when we pray for growth, when we pray for better job opportunities, you'll find yourself in a place where, your previous role, it took you maybe 2-3 years to be 90% expertise in where you are. But the next role, you might get in there with 30%, 40%, and you grow in your skills and your strengths through it. And it's to have that level of it's okay even if I'm still learning, and learning will entail mistakes.
Of course.
But I want to learn, and I want to grow from this, and I want to bring also my best in this project. So it's going to be uncomfortable, but let's keep walking and keep learning. And we'll trip in the walk.
Yeah.
But if you have also kind people around you, I think for me that's a key, been a takeaway in terms of the projects I found myself in, having colleagues who might have, of course, be more senior than you, but don't, allow you to hold their hand, or they see you and they tell you it's okay. I also did mistakes. I also, I also did not understand all this jargon immediately, but you'll get there. And if there's anything, I'm around. And, that's something that I've learned a lot this year, and to accept that there will be moments of failure. There will be moments of, goodness, why did I send this email? This email or this report is just, coming back. Your colleagues will come back with your report with 50,000 comments, and you're like, there's been days where you get that report reviewed by your colleagues, and you wait a full day. You say you've opened it. Then you say, I want to take a nap. I'll open it again later.
Yeah.
I'll digest this because, and my older colleagues or friends tell me the workspace is also very particular. It's like the world. You have all personalities, but at the end of the day, do not take it personally.
Oh.
Do not take it personally. Someone will comment on your things or your outputs, but it's, take what you need that will help you grow.
Exactly.
And what is the rest? Voila.
Yeah. Feedback is a gift, as they say.
Yes.
You just either accept it or leave it on the hands of the person. So I love all of that you shared, especially because whether it's in a career, when you're working in corporate or starting your own business, growth happens in the uncomfortable moments, even with birth,
Yes.
The actual birth moment is the most uncomfortable thing ever. But that's where the beauty happens. If you don't go through that uncomfortable moment, you won't have the baby.
Yeah.
And so even for, as I said, when you're having your own business, a lot of people are afraid to get out of their comfort zone. They're afraid because, I don't want to be seen starting small. Because when you're doing something that you're good at for many years, you're on autopilot. Everybody knows you're good at it. You can close your eyes, just blah, 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 you're done. Yeah. But sometimes when you need to grow, you need to get to a place where you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Or you know just a little bit to get by, but you don't know enough. Just like you said, it could be 30% or whatever percentage that you have, but clearly it's not enough, and the people around you perhaps also, but they're okay with where you are. And most people are not willing to get to that level. They're like, I just want to know everything before I'm out there, but you're never going to know everything. So I think it's great that you have that growth mindset, as they call it. You're okay not knowing everything, and you're okay just maneuvering through and learning, because there's no failures. There's only lessons in life.
Yes.
There's no failure. Everything there's like, okay, I didn't know this. Now I know.
Yes.
Next.
Yeah. Rose, you've said it. And, in those moments that are uncomfortable, I literally, near my desk, I have a notebook, a little notebook that even has the title, Love Yourself. But, whenever it's a good work day or a bad work day, I will scribble in there, and at least the emotions are out. They've put on paper. It's like, okay, right now I felt like a fraud. I felt like this, but you put it there and, just go back to it, because it's not comfortable, but it's going to be worth it. And the you in 6 months, the you in a year's time, you will say, wow, okay, this is, we've crossed that bridge. We've crossed that bridge.
It's definitely that. And I think we need to learn to be more comfortable in the discomfort. because that's the only way we're going to grow, and it's by going through it. And so I commend you for doing that, because it sets the stage for others to know that if you want to get to the level that this person is at, know that there will be some uncomfortable ways to go through. It's not going to be an easy path, because a lot of people look at the results, but they don't look at the journey. And they're like, oh, this person got it easy. Oh, she's making this amount of money, or she's doing that. But they're not looking at what took you there.
Yes.
So I love to share that part of the struggle, if we may call it that way, because that's the reality of things. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be all of that. And I love what you shared earlier about men seeing women in their elements.
Yeah.
I started doing this work, and I started my community She Tribe in 2018, and started coaching 2019, 2020. And my husband just knew as, oh, she's just doing this thing with women. She goes upstairs in her office and has calls. But until he saw videos or testimonials or people sharing stuff that, like, oh, I did that with Rose. They're like, oh, and so sometimes now I hear him pitching about me to other people. He's like, oh yeah, my wife, she's a coach, she does that. Oh, maybe you should work with her. And I'm like, wow, he sees that. So all the money I spent in coaching myself, because that's another aspect. In order to grow, you need to invest in yourself. And I've paid for so many coachings and mastermind, because I love how you say being surrounded by the right people who are willing to hold your hands. And if you're in a room and you are the smartest, then you're in the wrong room. Grow, you're not gonna get correct feedback. You're just gonna, people are just gonna tell you what you want to hear. And so I love, every year I invest in a coach and a mastermind, because in masterminds I'm in rooms where I'm the most junior, at least in my business or in my sector or whatever. Sometimes people are like, what, you're making this a grade? How? And I'm like, wow, that's amazing, because that's possible.
Possible, exactly.
You've been working with them for a year, and like, wow, I remember when you started, she was there, and now she's here. Whoa.
Yes.
So it's really important to do that. And so tell us a little bit about the future, firm that you want to start. Let's go into the dream a little bit. How is, whatever you want to share, obviously.
Yes.
What are you looking at?
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm very torn. I still love development work. I get, my moments of why we, questioning. But there's also this little heart project, passion project for me about the arts. And really, if money was not a matter, I would open a cultural center. And because I've seen how the presence of arts and creativity in my youth helped me really expand my mind. And so that's something that I have there in the corner of really as a passion project that I'd like to do. Mm-hmm. But then for the firm, I mean, right now is the time to do this, sit down and to plan it around. So, so yes, I'm still, in a position, I'm fearing, I'm a bit, no, I wouldn't say fear, but yes, I can see the pool and I can see that it will take a dive. Yeah. And so I'm on the edge of that pool. I love that. I'm on the edge of that pool, indeed. I do technically have a registered company. So it's already, I have something that I could immediately set up, and even a business account. So I told myself, wow, Shari, you have the business account, you have the registered company, I have the website, and clients that I could just, so what are the small things I could do? So
I love that.
Yeah,
it's happening.
It's happening.
I see.
And it's me not feeling too scared to email people, clients, or even put myself on LinkedIn to let them know that I'm open for business, that I want to support in developing gender sensitive policies for companies to also look at how they can better support women in the work they do. So those kind of projects, and supporting research too on why gender equality is so important, and we need to keep pushing that more women need to be in school, more girls need to get access to education, need to get into male-dominated sectors because there's so much money in the tech field, and I'm really, really impressed with STEM, science, tech, engineering, and maths organizations here in Ghana, like Soronko Academy and the sort, who are really pushing for that agenda. So not only, again, doing things by myself, it's really amplifying, collaborating with institutions who are also doing fantastic work to get more women opportunities and avenues for their well-being in all sectors. So yeah. So I want to continue that leap of seeing what others are doing, not just in Ghana, supporting in a way that I can, and building my portfolio and asking maybe multilateral organizations for the bigger money, but for those who are here and who are doing the work, just working in a collaborative mindset and space.
I love that. I really I can see that happening for you, and I'm pretty sure if we were to have this conversation a year from now, we would have so much to talk about and celebrate. When you were talking and said you were seeing the pool and sitting by the edge, it took my mind to Lovey Ajayi. Who said, I'm not sure in what year was it, but she set a year where she's like, I'm going to do everything that I'm afraid of, and just choose this year. And she's going to do anything that comes up that she's like, I've been wanting to do this, but I'm really afraid and I'm not going to do it. And that was her year. And she said she imagined and she wanted to, I think it was jump from a plane. And she's Nigerian. So African parents jump from a plane, we don't go together with that. It's like, exactly. What? On the two sides? But she talked about sitting on the edge of a plane. And that is it. It's like sometimes you just need to sit at the edge for a bit. Sit at the edge. And it could be sitting there for an hour, sitting there. Please go and sit at the edge.
Yes.
Dip your toe in the pool.
Yes. Feel the air.
Feel the air on your skin, on your cheeks.
Yes.
So it's the little steps. A lot of people think the step is, oh my God, I need to go out there and do all the, steps you mentioned. They could be big, but sometimes there are tiny steps in between. And that's what I love accompanying the women that I work with, taking those small, tiny steps, because it's those ones that compound into the big ones. And it's not always about immediately jumping in the pool, but there's so many smaller steps that you could take in between that makes it more comfortable, less of a shock, going to a cold pool of water versus, maybe sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need to just jump in. And so I know that, you are definitely going to turn this into something beautiful. And you mentioned a lot of organizations already doing amazing work on the continent that you'll be collaborating with. So I'm looking forward to hear more about that. Is there anything else you'd like to share with any of our viewers watching who have a dream that they're sitting on, or maybe thinking about going into a specific field that are not so comfortable in? What would you say? What would be your piece of advice to them?
I would tell them life is short, and I like living a heart-centered life. I like living a life where I pay attention to my intuition and my gifts. If more than one person around you has told you you're amazing at this or at that, or why, pay close attention to the things that make your heart sing, but that also people see in you as your gifts. It's really what I would encourage people, because we really need, I think for me, I admire those who walk in their purpose, who walk in their gifts, and because those are those who really, you live a life of no regrets, because this is this is what you're walking in your gift. And so I think the biggest thing to have in life that you don't want is regrets. So to take the leap, what's the best case scenario? Always have the best case scenario, and write it down. Write down what your dream will make you feel, make your people feel, the communities, how it will impact them. And once you've really impressed those emotions and vision, I think, the universe and God will really, really have, the universe will conspire in our good. And I think that's what I want us to have in mind. We might be fearful at times, but, everything is happening for us. It's for our good. And as long as we really, really pay attention to what our heart says to us. So, yeah.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. I felt it right in here. And everything you said is the way I see the world. And whenever I see people, as you said, walking their destiny, living, because people say, oh, living their best life. But it's not about living, going on holidays on a yacht or whatever, but it's about, wow, they're truly who they are, and they don't do them. They're just doing their own thing. And because I believe that when people are walking their own paths, they touch more people and allow more people to do their own thing. And if everybody was just doing what they love and what they're good at and contributing, the world would be a better place, I believe.
Exactly.
So I'm very much into all of that, human design, and I found out that I'm a generator, and then they said generators are just supposed to do what they enjoy. And I was like, really, just that? And they said, when you just do what brings you joy, it actually puts all the pieces together. It allows you to do what you're good at, and you empower more people. And I was like, oh, and I was trying to do all the things I think I should. It's like generators are just supposed to do what they enjoy, what brings them joy. And it sounds selfish, but as you're doing that, you're actually doing the things that you need to do. And I was like, oh, that's true. And the universe is always conspiring to make things work your way. And so putting it out there, writing it down, as you said, things will just show up because you're calling them into your lives, and you've accepted, but also surrendered them onto God or the universe and said, you know what, do your thing, hon.
Yes. Yeah. So again, for ladies to write, dream and write, write and dream, because you get amazed by just a few months later or a year later how, some of the things you wrote about really happen, Exactly. And so we want to write good things.
Yeah. Write and speak good things onto your lives. Thank you so much, Shari. I absolutely love this conversation. I cannot wait to meet you when I come down to Ghana and see all the work that you're doing with these amazing women and your future projects that you're working on. Yes, thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you.
Thank you so much, Rose. I really enjoyed the talk, and yes, eager to welcome you in Accra whenever you're here. Merci, ma sœur.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.